Thinking. And we are live. Okay, I'd like to welcome everyone in the room to the ELPCO October 2023 meeting. We are now live on Facebook. I will start letting folks into our Zoom meeting. Welcome, Farina. Can you hear us okay?
Farina.
Farina? Hello, Farina. Hello, Farina. Can you hear us all right? Can you hear us?
Minute, I'm muted. Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, great. Welcome. Thank you. Gonna admit everyone else. Jeanette, Alicia, Fox News 13, Amber, Cooper. Welcome, everyone. My name is Christina Robb, and I serve as the chair of the East Liberty Park Community Organization. This is our October 2023 meeting. In the room, we have quite a house. Welcome, everyone. Thank you for coming. Go ahead and grab a seat over here.
Thank you. I'll try not to loom over your shoulder.
That's all right. Loom all you want. Welcome to everyone out there in Zoom land. Thank you for joining us. We're going to wait just a couple more minutes because we have a few board members that were waiting to join us on Zoom. In the meantime, I'm going to tell you a little bit about where we're meeting. We are hosted here at the Tracy Aviary in Liberty Park in Salt Lake City. We are in the wax room that overlooks the aviary. Historically, or at least since the pandemic, we have had very small in-person meetings. So tonight is a joy to have so many people here at the table. If we continue to have folks come and join us in person, as we do tonight, we will be moving over to a larger room here at the aviary. But if you're listening and you're still wondering how to get to the aviary, they will guide you here from the front gate. So it's very easy to find us. Welcome. Go ahead and grab a table or a chair.
I think there's some that needed for
There.
Oh, sorry.
Oh.
A little tricky. Maybe you guys can have me like help people go around the side, your side instead of.
Yeah. We need a bigger room, I think.
No, we're discussing that. That's the one. There we go.
There you go.
You're
Fixed, all right.
okay, that was easy.
A couple of you.
Okay, I'm going to add some more people. Welcome, Amy. Welcome, Keegan. Welcome, Judy.
Very fun. There's one
So we're just waiting for a few more people for everyone out there. Oh, Amy, yeah, that's fine. Just be careful of this corner right here. Welcome everybody out there in Zoom land. We're just waiting for a few more people who are coming up the stairs. So just give us a moment. We'll start promptly at 7:05.
And young enough. Got great hair done, yeah. 2-hour meeting.
That's meeting So the people can come inside and go.
Okay, it looks like we're ready to start. Again, I'm gonna repeat what I said previously. My name is Christina, and I serve as the chair of the East Liberty Park Community Organization. We welcome everyone tonight. We usually do not have this many people come to our in-person meetings, so if we do, we will move the Tracy Aviary where we meet will let us move over to the other larger space. But for tonight, we're just gonna have to wing it, and I thank everybody for coming. So I'm gonna introduce some of my board members in the room. I put on my glasses. So at the end of the table, we have Jeanette. She serves as our secretary. Thank you, Jeanette. Messing with the chairs out there at the other end, we have our East Liberty Park Community representative. This is Marshall Bailey. Here we have Alicia Cunningham Bryant. She serves as our West Emerson representative. Sitting next to her is Alan Fridgeman. He is a member at large. This is David Jones. He serves as our second member at large. And behind me, we have Amy Albo, who serves as our 9th and 9th business liaison. Online, I'd like to welcome our land use advisor, Judy Short. Welcome, Judy. And that is all I see for now. I'm going to continue to admit people into the Zoom as we speak. I want to let you know that what we wait for at first is for the fire department to join us. They are scheduled at 7 o'clock, but if they cannot be here, they simply do not show up. So we imagine tonight that they're on a call, and we wish them good luck. I don't know if you were aware that there was a fairly large house fire on 8th East today, just to the west of East Liberty Park. So we're hoping the best for that situation. And second in line always is our wonderful community liaison, Detective Samuel Fallows. He is out of the city. He is doing conference work in another state. And he has asked me to sort of fill in for him since I've been doing this with him for many, many months and with the district liaisons for many years. We just want to remind everyone that it is officially cold weather season. And along with cold weather season, especially in our area, we start to see a rise of car thefts. This is generally a result of folks leaving your cars on to warm them up in the morning, or not satisfactorily locking your cars at night, mostly because it's cold and everybody wants to run inside. So this is a really important time of the year to make sure that you lock your cars and stow away any visible items to avoid break-ins. And also, it's a really important time to be safe because it gets dark so early. So we want to make sure that, everyone that we need to be looking out for is being looked out for as they bundle up for the winter. The second thing that happens a lot is we start to get, quote, property crimes, which are often breaking and entering as a result of other folks trying to stay warm. So unfortunately, this does often result in theft of items and things like this. So again, just a reminder to make sure that you have locked your garages and your gates. And when you see things that are unsettling or in the realm of suspicious, please notify them, utilize the mobile app, Salt Lake City Mobile, unless there is a crime in progress. And if there's any time you see a crime in progress and it requires a 911 call, don't hesitate. Otherwise, the 801-799-3000 is the non-emergency number for the police department. Does anybody have any questions? Okay, Alicia, do you have our agenda pulled up? Can you tell us what's next on the agenda?
Next is Councilperson Mono.
Okay, so there has been a lot of things happening in the city, as you're all aware of. And Councilman Mono sends his regrets at the last moment. So this was a very long meeting, but it is getting smaller by the second.
After Councilman Mono is Joshua
Okay,
Rebello.
Josh Roballo, he is our liaison to the mayor's office, and Josh is joining us online tonight. Welcome, Josh. Thanks for being here.
Hi, I'm in my car, as you can see, so it's a little dark. I thought it would look better, but it doesn't. It happens sometimes with the police officers too, when they're giving updates from their patrol cars and it doesn't look that good. So I'm just gonna turn it off because it doesn't help that much. My name's Josh Boyle. I'm a community liaison in the mayor's office for District 5. It's good to be with you today and this evening. I usually have another conflict with the Fair Park Community Council because I cover District 1. And they hold their community council on the fourth Thursday as well. So that's why I'm not there in person, but we do have a couple things I wanted to update on. We have in the city the 2024 ACE fund application period opening up soon. ACE stands for Arts, Culture, and Events Fund. This is a fund that the mayor's office gives to events big and small throughout the city every year to allow them to bring the community together. And so that will open November 1st. And so this is for, obviously the community council, but for anyone else that might be part of an organization or group that wants to host an event in the city during 2024, please take a look at applying for an ACE grant. And we have some information sessions that are being provided to people that want to learn more and how to apply, and just a lot of good information about hosting events in the city. And so the next information session will be next Thursday at Sorensen Unity Center. But then there'll be other ones happening in the month of November that I'll make sure gets to the community council to be shared on their social media page. If you don't have it already, Christina, I'll make sure that you have that information. And then aside from that, I don't know if we've talked about, you've talked a little bit about issues regarding homelessness and coming into the winter. So we have the county overflow plan that is currently being put into action. As of October 16th, St. Vincent de Paul opened up 65 beds at their space. And then each of the homeless resource centers has incrementally increased their capacity every night since the 16th. And they'll continue to do so over this next couple weeks. And then West Valley City is also hosting an overflow shelter to be open by the beginning of November as well. And so all in total is 600 overflow beds for this winter. And that's in addition to the temporary shelter community, which is the shelter pods, which are being planned for the corner of 600 West and 300 South. You may have heard or seen in the news some issues or delays with that regarding searching for a provider to operate that space. The state has been in charge of finding and identifying the provider for the services at that location. And so they're working on that, and we're not anticipating that it's going to be abandoned or anything like that. It's still going to obviously happen very soon, and I'm guessing that we're going to have some more information coming in the next couple of weeks on the provider for that and when that will be up and running. But the site preparation for that is going pretty well as of yet. So aside from those items, I don't have anything else as far as updates. I'm happy to take any questions or comments on those items or anything else that needs to be brought up.
Great, Josh. Thank you. Does anyone in the room have any questions from the mayor's office? Anyone out there in Zoom? Any questions from the mayor's office? Okay, Josh, we do actually have a couple of questions. As you know, there has been a lot of work on the end of all of the community councils to try and make sure that we're supporting the mayor's effort and the city council's effort in funding shelter, especially over the winter. Is there anything that you can quickly let us know that we might do to help be more active in this arena to try and solve or help with the shelter issues or the lack of
Mhm.
meeting the shelter
Yeah.
issues?
Yeah, so I know each of the resource centers are always accepting and want donations. In the city, we usually typically organize a clothing drive every December, and I anticipate that we're doing the same this year, but I don't have information yet on that. I would also suggest looking at Shelter the Homeless, the website, for information on like volunteer opportunities. Um, as the temporary shelter community starts to get up and running, there may be some opportunities there for some either donations or volunteer efforts. But I don't have anything specific on that one right now.
Okay, great. Thank you. And one more question that we have received from the residents surrounding Liberty Park. We know there's a lot of homeless taking shelter there in the park, and over the summer or the warmer months, it has sort of been tradition to move people out of the park as the park closes at 11:00 p.m. Is that going to be something that we're doing moving forward now that the cold weather is happening?
Yeah, so the priority as the shelter beds for overflow become available to get everyone into those beds. And, when there is space, when there is capacity that people can be, directed to, then it makes, enforcement of the camping ordinance easier and more possible. So getting those shelter beds available and that information obviously is, they have it, our homeless service providers and VOA outreach and officers who work with the population to know that there are more shelter beds available, and just getting people into those is the priority.
Okay, great. Thank you, Josh. We'll be following up with them to just make a plan for ourselves here in East Liberty
Yes,
Park.
and if you need any more information on Liberty Park specifically, I'm happy to get an update from Andrew Johnston in our office and give it to you and then share it with you.
That'd be fantastic. I have one question from the floor. This is Alan Crittenden.
Yes, Josh, and this may be something that you want to refer to your colleague as well. I've noticed in walking around the park that the stone grills have been fenced off with a note that they're being repaired and renovated and will be ready for action next spring. That seems like a long time to fix three grills. I'm just wondering if we had any information on why that was taking so long.
I was not aware of that, so I can refer that to public lands. And you said the grills are fenced off right now?
Yeah, they've got fences around them. One of them looks in pretty bad shape, although I actually saw that one in use the week before. The other two look in halfway decent shape, at least the untrained eye. It seems odd to me that we fence them off and say they're going to be ready in April or May. I mean, usually if you get a backyard grill put together, even a stone one doesn't take usually 6 months. So I was curious about that.
Yeah, I took a note of it, actually. I'll go ahead and see about that and then give it to Christina, the update on that, and hopefully can get a timeline on when those will be open or what they're doing with them.
That would be great. Thank you.
All right, Josh, thank you. We're going to move on. We appreciate you being here tonight.
Yes, thank you.
Have a good evening. Okay, so next on the agenda for tonight was Bill Knowles, who is the Salt Lake City ombudsman for construction mitigation. However, Bill had a time conflict, and so we are being joined tonight by Bennett. he was online. There he is.
Yes, hi.
Bennett, welcome. Thank you. Can we go ahead and start with the 900 South update? As you
Yeah.
know, go ahead.
Oh, no, I was just going to get kind of right into that. So right now they are really kind of focusing on two sections with some of this construction, obviously within the installation of the new bike path, resurfacing of the road, amongst other things. But they just did finish repaving the street from 2nd East to 5th East, which I know they had kind of torn up that road surface for a while. And so it was I think kind of a tricky thing for some of the residents and businesses in that area, but they were able to finish paving that. And so that's out of the way. They anticipate they'll be striping that section of roadway next week, as well as have some less disruptive activity going on as they're raising some of the manholes and utilities they had to lower while they were repaving. And they are also finishing some concrete work in the milk block development. Kathia Dang, she owned that former Southeast Asian market there. And so they're installing the bike path and finishing some concrete work up there. The other area that they're focusing on is the 9th and 9th area. They are working on installing some of the curb and waterway and gutter in that area, and are hoping to start with installation of the bike path on Monday. So that will be, I think, about 500 feet of some decorative green concrete going from roughly 900 East to just past Lincoln Street. And once they finish that, they will start to resurface the road. And so they're planning on doing that Wednesday or Thursday of next week. And so that process, they will bring out a machine called a mill, and it will take off, I think, about roughly 3 inches of roadway. And that'll be Wednesday, Thursday is their hope. And then Friday, they will repave the road back. So there'll be some single lane closures while they're doing that work. The eastbound lane will probably be closed starting on Monday with the installation of that bike path as well. And so those are kind of the major activities going on. I know their goal for right now is to be largely complete by November 17th, particularly with the holiday season coming up for a lot of retail locations. It's kind of important for them to have as much access and as little construction going on as possible. And so they are planning to be done in the 9th and 9th area by the 17th. And, you know, barring some small landscaping things, I would say with the whole project, I think the timeline right now is anticipated, you know, to be done around the 17th, barring any delays.
Great. So for those of you who are not aware, we are working very closely. ELPCO is working very closely with our businesses in the 9th and 9th area to try and promote an event to celebrate the end of the 900 South reconstruction and to sort of open up the holiday season for people hanging out down in our area again without a bunch of loud noises and with our shops and restaurants all open. So we're going to continue to ask you to come out and support local, buy local as we ramp up, especially in the retail shops. As you're aware, probably, I wasn't, the retail season starts November 1st. So, you know, as soon as Halloween is over, we move into the holiday shopping season. So, you know, as much as you can, spread the word. Let's try and keep our businesses open and healthy throughout the new year so we can start to spring with a bang. All right. So then moving on, Bennett, to 1100 East, there, we're particularly interested in hearing what the winter over idea is there.
Yeah, and I apologize. So Bill did not get back to me with that information. So I am mostly just on the 900 project. So I unfortunately don't have an update there.
Okay, great. Well, it's good to know.
Got a small update.
Yeah, we're not going to do that. We're gonna wait. And yeah, okay. So Bennett, I'm sorry that Bill wasn't in touch with you on that, but we will need to have an update on that so that we can speak to our residents and our businesses in the area just absolutely as soon as possible.
Yeah, and I'll mention that to Bill as far as getting you guys some more information on that project.
Okay, we do have some questions from the floor, so let me take those first. Go ahead.
I would like to know what kind of signage will be put on 1300 to the south of 1300 east-west. I'm not familiar with the street layouts yet, but I'm familiar with bump outs and roundabouts. And when I come down there and look at them, I realize that every car that's coming through there is going to knock off the bumper or rip off some kind of trim. And when it gets to be snow and ice, they're going to be invisible. They're about the height of these new low cars bumpers. That to me is very dangerous. At 84, I wonder what is being done? Who did the planning? Thank you.
What street are you talking about?
I live at 1177 South 800 East. So if I go
Oh.
south and cross 1300,
Okay, so,
Thank you.
yeah, so I'm sorry, Bennett, but this is our next agenda item. In
Oh,
which
okay.
Keegan will be speaking to the byway issues. So, yeah, so I don't see any questions from the Zoom. Is there any other questions about 900 South or 1100 East in particular? So to David's point over here, we did actually meet with the leaders of the 1100 East project not too long ago, but I have made aware that a lot has changed since then. So we'll wait for an official update so as to not spread any old news on that. So thank you for coming, Bennett. Good to see you.
Can I just
Yeah,
say-
yeah, for sure. I would just also add, if any of you guys have questions or concerns with the construction, if you see something that you're wondering about or doesn't seem right, you can always just send us an email. It's info@SLC 900 South, and I'll send that in the Zoom chat, as well as just our hotline phone number, which you can also call in with questions or concerns there, and we're happy to try to work through that with you.
Great. One
I'd
more
like
question
to
on that,
say-
Bennett. We are still sending people to those addresses in order to sign up for email reminders and information coming right into their inbox. Is that still available?
Yeah. So for the 900 project, we're still sending out weekly email updates that just goes section by section of roadway, kind of what's happening, rough timeline, what to expect. And yeah, you're also welcome to, if you just have a specific question about maybe something near where you live or a business you frequent, or you're just traveling through and you see, an issue, we're happy to work with the contractor and figure out a solution to that. And the hotline as well is a good resource.
So that goes both for 900 South and 1100 East.
Yes, so yeah, the emails for 900 South specifically, but you're welcome to reach out to that, and I can work with getting it into the right spot so we can get you an answer.
Great. Can you say the hotline number out loud?
Yeah, it's
Well-
844, so 844-297-6884. I'll say it one more time. 844-297-6884.
Great. Okay, thank you, Bennett. We're going to move on to the next thing. We appreciate you being here tonight. Keegan, who is from the Salt Lake City Department of Transportation, will be talking to us about the new livable streets part of their department. Keegan, are you there?
Yep. Hi, all. Thanks for having me. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, we can. Thank you.
Awesome.
So-
Thank you.
Before you start, I want to give you a little bit of background information on what we need from you tonight. I'm keeping a little bit more on you than you might have been prepared to answer. So in addition to the 800 South or 800 East Byway that we originally invited you here to speak to, we're going to also ask you to help us walk a little through the Kensington Byway. Is that going to be okay with you?
Yeah, I can do my best with that one. Unfortunately, I haven't been on that project very much, but I know a little bit about it. So.
Okay, I'm gonna let Jeanette Young, our secretary, who's been working really close with Keegan on this, introduce the new initiatives by the city and Keegan more formally.
Yeah, hi Keegan. We've emailed a little bit, but we haven't really met yet. So thanks for coming. He's been
thanks for having
really
me.
great for answering a lot of those questions. I've been getting a lot of personal comments about what's been going on 800 East between 17th South, 13th South. And he's big louder.
Yeah.
And so we asked him to come talk about what's been happening there and then talk about neighborhood byways and the livable streets program. So he's a transportation planner with the transportation division at Salt Lake. So turn it to you.
Yeah, fantastic introduction. Thank you. Yeah, so first of all, I would like to address 800 East. So that project that we put in there, that is the first phase of the 800 East byway. So the idea behind a neighborhood byway, and it's a similar thing with Kensington as well, but the idea behind a neighborhood byway is taking streets that are already fairly low volume, low pressure streets that are already really nice to walk on, and just improving them a bit more to discourage cut through traffic and also to slow traffic down even more, so we can make it more of a active transportation corridor. And generally with the neighborhood byways, we want them to connect to places that are of importance to people, that have either cultural significance, recreational significance, since we are in Utah, but among other things. And the biggest thing that I can say about neighborhood byways, and I think it's something we miss out on when we message around it, is that neighborhood byways are really intended to create those active transportation routes specifically for school children. So yeah, so that's what you're seeing out there with those bulb outs and with the traffic circles that have been recently installed. And as far as 8th East goes, I spent the last week and a half trying to get solid updates on what's going to happen in terms of the signage along 8th East there. Because the thing is we put in all the flat work, everything is done as far as concrete goes. The problem is we haven't striped or signed it very well, or at all. And we've been running into actually a lot of those issues with most of our projects. I've seen it over on Emory Street in the west side, even the Capitol Hill project that we just recently installed. We've been just running into delays with the signage. The signage keeps coming. I mean, we had it on 4th South for the bus islands. We had 4 months in between the flat work being completed and signage finally going in. Now, to me, that's unacceptable, and it's unacceptable to our whole transportation division. That with those issues, it's really on the contractor and their specific subcontractor to give us timelines and to make sure that the work is completed in a timely fashion. So we have been on top of them about that, but unfortunately, I do not have a timeline for when the signage is to be installed along 800 East there. And that's pretty much the rest of what needs to happen. Once we get all those things in there, we should be able to take the cones out, get rid of all the barriers, anything that's left. And hopefully with the signage and with a little bit of striping, it will address some of those visibility issues that you were talking about, especially when the snow comes. We are astutely aware of how snow can impact our neighborhood streets specifically, because they have a lower priority when it comes to actually being plowed, right? So that being said, our streets division is very aware of all the projects that we do. We make sure we maintain a constant contact with them, especially when we insert things that will make plowing an issue, but also we want to make sure that we're aware of emergency response times as well. So anything that we've put in has been okayed by fire, and it has been okayed by our streets division. But I feel like that was a lot of word soup, so I'd like to address some questions about 800 East if we can.
Does anyone in the room have any questions for Keegan on specifically the 800 East Byway or the traffic calming in general? That is a new, really very new to our city. I mean, the first time we really saw it in Liberty Park was on 900 South reconstruction. So that area right there is the first time we started to see the bulb outs and the slowing and the whoop-de-doos and things like that. So One question from the room, Keegan.
I have a question about bump outs. My name's Brian. Like, so I'm on the 11th East area, and there's bump outs that go up between 11th East and 13th East. So who yields to who? I mean, typically the downhill should probably yield to the uphill, but in the winter, that might not be possible. So what kind of signage is going to be put up to protect people from these head-on collisions that are going to be happening?
Well, unfortunately, with those particular types of things, but with bump outs specifically, there's not like a silver bullet sign that you can put up, that's gonna, stop these incidents from happening. Unfortunately, human beings are, well, human, and they make mistakes. But that being said, when it comes to right of way, and this has been actually a conversation that I've had with a few people in the division, and then also some people out in the community. When it comes to those, really what I think of is I think of a very narrow neighborhood street, one in which all of the parking is utilized on each side. And normally in those situations, what happens is you allow the first person who gets to that pinch point to come through, and then the second person goes, right? So really with those particular situations, unfortunately, there's not there's not a silver bullet. The biggest thing is it's a judgment call for these drivers. And one hopes that that people will first yield when they need to yield, but also just care about the fact that, crashing into someone is a day ruiner for everyone. So yeah, unfortunately, I don't have a great answer on how to maneuver those, because each situation is different. It's very context dependent. So
Is it Kevin?
Right.
Brian, I'm actually going to emphasize what Brian says, because I've been working a lot in the area east of 1100 East. Recently, we've had a lot of calls and emails to ELPCO asking for help. And what you're speaking to is actually been something that's dominating the conversation. For the people who don't understand what we're talking about, the bulb outs were put in along the McClellan Trail not too long ago, and they are partially down the steep incline coming off of 13th East. So, obviously they're put there for a reason, to help people utilizing the trail to cross safely with, traffic that often comes down, through these people's neighborhoods very, very quickly. So the city decided to put in the bulb outs to do the traffic narrowing. And is Jeff in the room? Jeff is our East Emerson representative. We want to give a little bit of background on all the public outreach was done before this was put in, and how we can get people more invested in coming to the meetings before the changes are made, so that we have all of your input ahead of time. So go ahead, Jeff.
Yeah, I can give a lot of background on it. It was actually not the city, it was a CIP grant that neighbors along Browning and Harrison and Roosevelt initiated submitted a CIP application that was approved. Funding the project was actually delayed 3 years. It was approved in 2020. And you can see the construction that's happened now. So there was construction materials and cost delays, but the city did an excellent job on reach out. We had several different walking tours with people from planning, and the things that the neighborhoods were all flyered. I attended all of the ones there, and they took a lot of input and guidance from the neighborhood, and there were changes all along the way based on that input from the neighbors who participated. There's bulb outs right in front of my own home. I live 2 houses below 13th East and right on the steep hill. And I'm a huge fan personally of them. I have 3 small kids. I've already seen, there was a lot of traffic studies done beforehand too. The average speed on my street, on Browning Avenue, right below the hill, average speed was 33 miles an hour. Something needed to be done to calm traffic. And the uphill speed was actually faster than the downhill speed when they did the traffic study. People gun it to go up that hill. There's still people who speed on that hill, up and down. But there is a noticeable difference, and the traffic calming is working. I feel much more comfortable with my 3 kids playing out in the yard and crossing the street. And, you know, really the bulb outs don't come out any further than parked cars. And they're mountable curbs too, at least the ones around McClellan Trail. I know the ones on 8th East don't necessarily match that description, but they're mountable curbs. So it's not gonna break anything if somebody goes up over them. And there is signage going in now and markers to stick up above them and 1-lane road signs. And so they're doing their job and traffic needs to be slowed down. And the city did a lot of outreach. And if you feel like disconnected, either there's opportunities to participate when they come.
Every third or fourth Thursday of the month here at ELPCO is the perfect place for you to be, okay? So we have a couple more questions from the room, but I do want to touch on something that Jeff just said, because I've had a couple of big complaints about this on the, I'm switching over to the Kensington Byway now, because the Kensington Byway is bumping up against our CUP proposal that we're hearing tonight. So if you would stay on the line for Keegan, because often, always, when we talk about intensification of use under any circumstances, the number one thing that's going to come up is parking and how these byways and in increasing the use of anything in our neighborhoods, you know, it affects parking every time. So we're gonna have a conversation on that. Can you stay on the line, Keegan?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, great. So the safety issue that I wanted to bring up that was really actually in the middle, it was after dark. I've been wandering around this neighborhood, interviewing neighbors for a couple of weeks now. But we were looking at the street signs, the one-way lane street signs being, they're in the trees, you know, they're being placed, of course, in the parking strip, but often immediately obscured by the city-owned trees. So we are going to ask you all immediately to, you know, start thinking about the visibility of the actual signage being placed and taking a look at that. Because I think in your own words, safety around those issues is going to be really important. If people can read the signs. Do you understand what I'm saying? Yeah. So also the other thing is there are some little pop-up things that have reflectors on them, but they people were wondering why we can't do reflectors all the way around the bulb ups. Is that a cost prohibited thing?
You know, honestly, those reflectors are actually pretty cheap. The little tab ones that you see on things. Yeah, those are actually pretty cheap. Those I could go out there and install them myself if I wanted to.
Yeah. Well, I mean, just something to think about, because I mean, with all of the traffic calming that's coming online as a result of livable streets, which we are inclined to support because of all the children who have been hit in our neighborhoods or near adjacent neighborhoods recently. You know, anything that we can do to mitigate the effects of these on, you know, the consumers would be great. So we'll make a list and start passing it on your way.
Please.
Okay, all right, so any other questions from Zoom on? I'm sorry, who do I not see? Oh, hello there.
Sorry.
No, go ahead.
I actually do have a question about the placement of the bulb outs.
Okay.
So I live on Kensington, just east of 11th East at the bottom of the street.
Okay, great.
And I was, I guess, curious of why we have bulb outs at the bottom of the street when we've done this awesome thing with the curbs, like at the end of the street where it also calmed. So I'm kind of, I guess, curious of why we have both things.
Keegan, you can answer that, but we also heard from the crew on this, so go ahead, you start, and then we'll fill in the blanks.
So you're, let me make sure I'm hearing that correctly. You're talking about, so first of all, the bulb outs at McClellan, but then also the ones that are on 11th East itself, like at Kensington 11th East?
No,
Okay, so this was a question that came up when we met with Lynn and, who's the woman that's leading Megan? We met with Lynn and Megan, who are the city, for the 11 East project. So the question that came up and what this woman is asking tonight is, why are the bulb outs on Kensington, for example, or on the side streets rather than actually on 1100 East?
Thank you. That's a phenomenal question. Yeah, so the reason we do that, so the reason why we add it on to the side streets is because we are trying to, the reason you add bulb outs at all is, first of all, the narrowing action, but most importantly, it's for the tightening of the turn radius itself. So it actually makes you pull out further when you're making the right turn to look and see and make sure that there aren't any pedestrians, cyclists, anybody who's going to be getting into the roadway. And it also just, it's really just a visibility thing. And then the other reason why we don't put it on 11th East itself, that has to do with road classification. 11th East is, I believe 11th East is a collector, borderlining, and arterial. So it is meant to move a decent volume of cars, and it connects centers, like activity centers. And that's generally how you get a collector or an arterial designation. So it's a road that moves a lot of people, cars, bikes, everyone. It moves a lot of people. So that's the reason why we don't put bulb outs on there, because we want to have a certain level of service as far as volume of traffic is concerned.
Okay, great. So I'm going to clarify a little bit what you said, and then I'm going to give it over to Jeff again. So when we met with Megan, who represents the city in the 11th East project or reconstruction project, they explained to us in detail that some things that look like bulb outs, so the bulb outs are actually on the side roads on Kensington. Those are bulb outs. The other things that look like bulb outs are actually islands that are meant to shorten the distance that you walk across the street. So there is a quiver of traffic calming things, so these islands, the bulb outs, as well as speed humps in some areas, the raised intersection that's at Harrison and 11th East, where of course, Emerson crosses. All of these are little bits and pieces of a quiver of traffic calming things that the city can employ to do this. So that, that's as far as I know, but I'm going to turn it over to Jeff, and then we'll take some more questions from the floor.
One other comment related to that, and the reason why some of the traffic calming looks different on each of those streets is each street, Browning, Harrison, Emerson, Kensington, Bryan, had street captains, and nobody decided for all the streets what they were going to look like. Each street got to have their own input about where the bulb outs would be most effective and where they fit in with traffic, where parking needs were, and other things. So I didn't have any input on where Kensington's were. I had a lot of input on where Browning's were, because that's where I live. And so the stakeholders on Kensington were the ones who made those decisions for where the Kensingtons were once replaced. And as Christina mentioned, there was a whole quiver. Tom Millar was the one who led a lot of from planning, led those walking tours, and had a lot of great metrics, which, aren't stored photographically in my brain right now, about how many feet as you narrowed the street, the exact number of, on average, how much that would slow a car down, and the different measures and what effect they would have. And, based on what each street wanted to see and where the trouble spots were, that's the city really listened to each street and their street captain and the input street by street.
Great. Was there another question?
He answered my question.
Okay, great. All right, so we have a lot to talk about tonight. If we've gotten a good handle on this, then we're going to actually move on to the conditional use permit request for the bar at the corner.
Forgive me, I actually do have a question for the livable streets gentleman, if he's still available.
It's here, yeah.
Forgive me, I'll try to be quick. I think last ELPCO meeting, I connected with Councilmember Mano about potentially putting a
four-way crosswalk at Belmont Avenue and 900 East. Big fan, think it's a great idea. I just thought I'd relay that to you and see if you have any thoughts on that.
Can you tell us your name again?
My name is Robert.
So Robert, thank you for coming and we, I mean, I really appreciate what you're doing in school, so I'm excited to hear more about this from you. We would maybe like to have you propose or talk to us someday. But so can you send us an email and then we can follow up with everyone, and that might be the best because he is not in charge of crosswalks. So yeah, if you could send that to ELPCO and also some C Councilman Mono again, that would be fantastic.
Okay, well, you can do.
All right, thank you so much. Okay, moving on, I'm going to introduce Riley Hall. The first time we worked with Riley, we're really excited. She's a principal planner with the Salt Lake City Planning Department, and she is going to present the background information we need to talk about this this request. A couple things that I want to mention before we get to this is we have had an immense amount of feedback on this, and we have seen nothing like this since I've become the chair of ELPCO. So, we're really excited to hear from everyone, but we just need to be clear that anytime there's intensification of use going from the Singleton family sewing shop and these dear old folks that have been part of our neighborhood for years and years and years, we're sorry to see them go. But we hope that you understand that as a community council, we go to great ends. I've been wandering this neighborhood literally for 2 weeks, soliciting information to understand the dynamics of the neighborhood. And we want to say to the folks who live east of 11th East, this, if this goes through, we do realize that it is a lifestyle difference for you. And we're going to do our best to understand all of the factors. So thank you for joining us tonight, and everybody will have a turn to speak, okay? We do ask that everyone is kind to each other, and that's all I'm going to say. Okay, thank you.
Hi, everyone. I am a planner that's been assigned to process the conditional use permit for the bar at 1533 South, 1100 East.
You might need
And-
to speak up
yeah.
just a little bit. Okay.
Sorry, okay.
Mhm.
I believe the applicant is also present and they prepared a presentation for us on the details of their proposal. So I'm actually going to turn the time over to them and they're going to present and answer some of your questions. And then once they're done, I can answer any questions you may have about the conditional use process.
Cody, do you want to come up here so we
Yeah.
can see you, or you can even sit in my seat, whatever
Yeah,
works.
I can sit on
Be
there.
careful of the cord. Sorry, not the best setup.
Yeah.
So this is Cody, who owns the property. Many of us in the room were able to do a walkthrough right off the bat with Cody, and we were actually able to address some of the concerns that we have heard since from the residents in the area. So there will be some give and take on this project, I think. So welcome.
Yeah, thank you. I know there's a lot of feedback and comments, so I'll keep this presentation super short. Basically, I bought the building. It's been about a year now from the family, great people. I purchased the building with the intent to put a business in there. I'm a developer in the area. I own 5 buildings on this street. I've really tried to purchase properties that needed a lot of work on on this 11th East corridor and restore them and bring them back to, a good use. I own the, if you guys are familiar with the old Sunshine Coin Laundry on Harrison and 11th. So I purchased that, and then the building next to it and a few others on that block. So there's a coffee shop now on one of those properties, which is pretty cool. I think the neighborhood likes it. And this property, I purchased it knowing that I was going to lease it to some sort of business. And going through the conditional uses for the property, this seemed like the highest and best use. I do understand that, there's going to be a lot of concern with some of the neighbors. We hope to be able to find an operator, if the operator's not me, who can help alleviate those issues. Out of the gate, we're really not trying to create a full-on bar party center by any means. And that's not something I would want to see for the neighborhood. I'm trying to create more of a co-working, if you guys are familiar with the Wine and Work space up in the 15th and 15th area, I'm really trying to drive that kind of neighborhood vibe for this space where, you know, obviously the intent is to have beer on tap, wine on tap. Liquor is not something I'm personally interested in. But I'm trying to create a place that has great Wi-Fi and basically is like a coffee shop with beer and wine. So I know a bar going into any neighborhood can scare people, but I would hope that everyone can understand that the intent for the space is to really be a community hub where people can come meet, greet, and you know, enjoy time together. So hours of operation, we're trying to keep that super cut and dry, where we're not open super late, not disturbing the neighborhood. And we're going to do everything we can to meet all the conditions and everything the police department needs to operate the building safely. So I'll keep it short and simple and allow everyone to
Great.
begin comments.
So to be clear, we're gonna start with comments in the room, okay? And then we're gonna go to the Zoom, and then we're going to bring to the table comments from other folks that we have gathered from, again, knocking on doors. So who would like to go first in the room? Sorry?
I would like to go. I think as far as clearly marketing for young smoker age, 20-year-old kids, there's an arcade in the basement. I like a bar being close, but not this close to where I live. I live within 300 feet. Anytime I go past Sugar House Pub, there's a bunch of people out smoking on the road. I ride my bike by and I inhale the secondhand smoke. I see mention of a designated smoking area at this place. There's no way you can prevent that tobacco smoke from drifting into my swamp cooler from noon till midnight, 7 days a week. How are you going to contain this smoke with a plastic airtight bubble with a machine absorbing all the tobacco smoke? I would further say that the bar is too close to the school at 1432 South, 11th East, St. John's Community Child Development Center. You might say that it's a daycare center, but that's immaterial. It has a couple hundred kids and 2 school buses. The spirit of the law is to discourage bars from being located within proximity of facilities that function as a school. I'm completely opposed to this project. If it were like a restaurant with a bit of wine in it, that would be cool. But this is going to amass a bunch of tobacco smoke and poor air quality coming right through my swamp cooler. I'm completely opposed to what. So how can you have? I heard there was a designated smoking area that will have a low impact on the immediate neighbors. How is that possible?
I mean, there will be a designated, would you like me to respond? Is that okay?
If you're comfortable,
Yeah.
comfortable.
Yeah, there will be a designated smoking area. And again, I can't control what people do. I don't personally smoke. You know, it is what it is in that regard. But again, when you said this is going to be like a Sugar House Pub, I'm really not trying to create that product. I'm trying to create something like Wine and Work on 15th and 15th. And I don't know if you've been there where you see, you know, they have to have the same regulations and have a designated smoking area. And I don't believe that's a problem in that neighborhood. Now, the arcade, although I think everyone's going to blow that a little bit bigger, I'm not trying to create a barcade. I know what the plan said that, but basically the basement's going to have a couple pinball machines. It's 200 square feet down there. So it's really, you know, the amount of people that can be in that basement at one time is not going to be a big area. So again, I understand your concerns, and I'm really trying to create a product that is not what you are thinking it's going to be. And I just want to keep that, you know, out there for everybody. So
I'm gonna make a comment in that Alicia, our board member, Alicia, she's the representative of the West Emerson area, which is across the street from this establishment. And when we were doing the walkthrough, I have never been to the place on 15th and 15th, but it is initially what the comparison that Alicia made. Do you want to say a little bit about what that place is like, the comparison they're making here? Because
with Passat, sure. Has anyone been?
I go all the time.
Yeah,
There's no designated smoking area there. It's a non.
so it has the patio.
They don't smoke out there.
it has to be a designated.
Agreed. So I think that's what Cody's trying to get at, is that you have to have one, but it doesn't mean people will do that. Is that correct?
yeah, that's exactly.
And to your point, exactly, they have the patio, which it can be a designated smoking area, but people aren't smoking there.
And it's by law, a
Yeah.
designated store, the designated.
So many feet from,
And I think it's,
Pardon?
so many feet from the door or
Mhm.
something.
That's a non-smoking
Body,
establishment, the whole patio. is
Casot's
non-smoking.
patio's right by the door, so that's confusing.
Okay, so what I understand from the room, and this is something that we're gonna look into, because this is exactly why public comment is so helpful. So what we're hearing is there a potential of having an establishment be a non-smoking establishment?
I would love that. Absolutely would love that.
I can answer that.
Let's hear
Okay.
more from Riley, because she was gonna have
Okay.
additional information, I think.
Well,
first.
the way that we discussed before was that with Riley would chip in when we're gonna let as much communication happen to the floor, and then Riley will step in when she feels
Okay.
necessary, so.
So all alcohol related establishments are required to submit a security and operations plan. And those are required to be reviewed by both the police and building department. And one of the requirements of the security and operations plan is that there has to be a designated smoking area that meets state code requirements. And one of those requirements is that it has to be 25 feet from an entrance. So it is required that there is a smoking area.
So we are the house right behind.
Okay, hold on. So just 1 second. So, okay, so to your points, do you feel like you've received the information that we can give you?
Well, I would
at
just
this
point
time?
out that you can't smoke within 25 feet of the sidewalk either, and Cassett is situated, the whole patio is that's from the sidewalk, but there's a non-smoking, this is the designated smoking thing, just because the bar is crazy, there's a non-smoking establishment. The patio is completely non-smoking.
Okay, well, we can look into this further and we can understand the dynamics of this. Thank you for your comments. Okay, who would like to be next?
Then,
So my first question is, you said you spoke to
Can you
neighbors?
please
Yes, certainly.
introduce yourself?
My name is Mark Johnson. I am the most affected because my bedroom window is like 30 yards from the bar.
And can you tell us just a little bit where your address is so that we
I'm
can?
on Kensington, just east of Shingleton's building.
Just
Across the
adjacent?
alley, I'm on the
Okay,
alley.
great,
10
perfect.
feet away.
Okay.
And nobody
Um,
has come to us. We found out.
Yeah,
about this
I was
topic
curious
today.
because
So,
I work at home and no one's ever come to our house. Well, I can't say no one's ever come to our, no one's come that I'm aware of. There's been nothing left and no doorbell, so it's confusing.
Well, I'm
But-
sorry that that's confusing to you, but you know, this
I'm-
is not what we're here to debate. We're just
You're
interested in.
you're right, I
listening to
just would have
your-
expected to be contacted. Separate, the smoking is an issue. If this goes through, there are currently 2 doors. The back door is like right on the alley, right by my house and their house, kind of. And what is the law? Can that back door be as fire exit only?
That's my intent. My understanding is the DBAC requires one entry point, which would be the front door.
Keeping foot traffic in and out the.
Yeah,
side.
only on 11th side. I actually eliminated the side door. If you recall, there was a side door there on
Oh, yes, it
Kensington.
was. Mhm.
So I've actually eliminated that. And that back door will be fire only. It'll be a fire alarm door. And then it also has the ADA component. So if there is someone that needs to enter the building with a wheelchair, that will be where they'll be able to do that.
Because part of the smoking question, I thought
Mhm.
people can just step out there, they're
and then it's the
closer to the
congregating area
neighborhood.
too.
Yeah, that's not the intent. The smoking designated smoking area currently is loaded towards 11. And then I should have come meet you or met with you long before.
I've met with many of your workers.
Yeah. But our intent and the site plan, we are gonna do a landscape buffer barrier on the property line to keep as much sound and sight between the 2 properties, you know, a vegetated wall and make it as soundproof as we possibly can. If we do get to that point.
I do definitely share the concern about an arcade.
For
I
sure.
feel like if it's 2 pinball machines, you know,
That's,
put a work table down.
yeah, it's,
If that's the goal, to be like.
Once
Kassan,
once
and
again-
Don't attract the
Yeah.
20-something.
yeah, the plan, I should never have put that on there
No.
because it literally, if you go in that basement,
It's tiny.
it's currently not even, I have to actually dig the basement to make use. So it's that small and it's not, the plan of the building is not to be like the Quarters arcade bar by any means. So,
Yeah, I mean, I do, it's a business zone street, but I
Mhm.
definitely have concerns. I have concerns that this is the byway where we're encouraging people to walk and bike. That's not mostly people e-biking to a bar, that's people pushing their kids in a stroller and walking their dogs.
making that corner busy. Traffic's a huge concern, parking, because there is almost none. Across the street on 11th is not going to be allowed to be parking, as I understand it, from the 11th reconstruction. So that means there's just in front of your bar and encroaching on our neighborhood where the full outs, which I really disagree with, but eliminate our traffic on parking. So, yeah, those are my biggest concerns, I think. Clearly the noise and having a bar next to my house and lowering my property, and there's all kinds of concerns that
For sure.
that are there.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate you voicing them, and again, I came here in person to try and alleviate and understand everybody's thoughts and concerns, and just as you're a property owner with rights, I also have rights. And I bought a building that was commercial, and I knew that this was gonna be upsetting for some. And I really want to drive it home that I'm trying to create something that's not a big party space. This is not a sports bar. This is not a club. This is driving to a place with great Wi-Fi that has beer and wine. And I originally wanted to bring a food component into it. We're still working on ideas for that because I think that would be awesome. So
Yeah,
anyways,
that again leads to the parking, the idea of
right,
a food truck taking one spot.
right.
It's gonna take a lot of spots.
Yep.
There aren't many.
And we've kind of eliminated that from the plan here.
And that was something we talked about when we did the walkthrough, that we didn't feel as the group that did the walkthrough, that was something that was going to be appropriate in the neighborhood.
Right.
So, simply because the food truck operates off of the thing over there.
Yep.
And brings a level.
Our updated plan actually has that removed.
Yeah.
So.
So can we speak to this updated plan? Because what I'm sensing, I have a lot of folks that have been communicating with me. What I'm sensing is that there's a difference. There's a difference in the original plan and the things that you have changed to. So how is this going to become available to us so we can spread it to?
I believe you have it as of
Yeah.
today, maybe. My architect was working on it.
So
It's
we
probably
can-
not the best use to roll this out right now.
Yeah.
but Yeah, there is. I do have.
We can look at that.
If you guys want to
after.
check it out after, like, I'd love to meet outside and take comments in addition to this as well, so.
Great, so the issue is that we're operating on what we originally presented with through a lot of conversation with neighbors and among our board member and with the planners and the owners. We have things have been mitigated already, so we're gonna have to put together a way to digitize these plans and get them out for folks to take a second look at them.
I can speak to that also. So there's a couple different ways that they can be accessed. You can reach out to me and I'm happy to share any of the plans that have been submitted by the applicant. They're also on our online open house and that is routinely updated. So every time that we receive updated plans, those are also updated on the website. You can also go to our citizen access portal and access the plans that way. And if you have any questions about that, I brought some cards today and I can get them to you and you're welcome to reach out to me.
Great. Any more comments?
Just this committee, is it the neighborhood representative? What is, I should know, wasn't aware, but what is the function of this block?
We are East Liberty Park Community Organization. We are one of the recognized community organizations set up by ordinance by the Salt Lake City. We've been operating in your area for 30 years. So we have met on the Friday of every month.
Or Thursday.
Or Thursday of every month for almost as long. So there's a lot of people in your area that aren't aware of us. And part of the reason why I'm going out and talking to people and introducing myself is because there's a lot going on around your guys' area. So
do you
I'm sorry I
endorse
didn't catch
things
you at
like
home.
this specifically, or do you try to like just balance the business versus the community, or what?
Right.
Like your article recently is extremely endorsing of the bar and a little dismissal of
Right,
dismissing of
I
people who
understood
reject.
that it was read that way by somebody who lives apparently right across the street from you. But I
Well,
was,
straight up said,
Yeah.
there are people that would reject any bar.
well, just as far as you know, I didn't write the article, right? A gentleman who is a planner in the city is well known, who works for Building Salt Lake, contacted me and interviewed me, just like, I mean, I don't know if you've ever been interviewed before, But they ask you questions and you answer the questions, and sometimes they put an article together in a way that doesn't exactly represent the context in which you said something. And I'm sure most people have had that happen to them. I mean, we call it telephone when I'm talking among my children. But I would like you to consider, as I have also put out in emails to several of your neighbors, that making assumptions about where we're at as a board is really unfair to the volunteers who work really hard and have put an immense amount of work into this project in order to make sure your neighborhood is served, as well as the immense amount of people who are very excited to have a bar in this neighborhood. So we really have to go through the process of balancing your concerns as the impacted parties and other Salt Lake City taxpayers and constituents. So,
Excuse me, may I say something?
yeah, sure, just 1 second. Let me make sure that this gentleman's answer. Yeah.
It just felt like.
There's a
it
lot
was
of assumptions being made, and it's
And-
very unfortunate.
And this is the first time we've shown up,
Yeah.
so this.
That's why I
was
asked the
really good.
question, what's your thing?
So
Because
we-
the article definitely, I don't know enough about it. You
Yeah.
clarified some of it, but it definitely was favoring the bar dismissive of people, and so that's why I was curious.
So I will address this right now. To be very clear, I have heard from way more people who are in this room who are essentially, and I've asked the question many times to people, are you okay having a restaurant with the same noise, hours, and access parking issues as, instead of this bar, if they decided to change? And many individuals have responded that the intention of a bar is very different than a restaurant or other things. So there are very many people who are not interested in drinking establishments in general.
That's fair. I mean, no restaurants in this town are open till midnight, but yeah.
So this is, I am sorry that you don't know me, but I hope that you understand going forward that we do a lot, we are very conscientious here. We are very data driven, and we do a lot of work to make sure that every voice who wants to speak to us is heard.
Okay.
So
I
Would
just
you like
wanted
to
to go a little bit further on this. Now,
Okay.
you're not the ultimate deciding factor, are you?
Absolutely not.
It's the planning commission of Salt Lake City, but anybody would come in here would maybe think that somehow you are a decider on
I
this,
am not.
but you are not,
I
correct?
am not.
Okay, so
And I'm
in
aware of that. I
reference,
appreciate
in
that,
reference
but
to
I
this
assume that-
gentleman's question, do you vote and send a recommendation to the planning commission? What is the process?
It
Why are we
depends-
here
It
tonight?
depends on what process that you're looking at, right? So this is a conditional use proposal, okay? So conditional use proposal is something that doesn't come up very often in ELPCO. Traditionally, I have been the chair since October of last year. So in ELPCO, the only conditional use processes that crossed our desk previous to the ADU changes in ordinances were ADUs, when they were conditional use. They are no longer conditional use, so we rarely see a conditional use process or a proposal, okay? So in this instance, it happens to be a drinking establishment, so there's a lot going on with that, and we will hear every single conditional use proposal the same, and have as long as I've been on the board of ELPCO. The way that we look at conditional use proposals, Alicia, and we have been just addressed a subdivision that is in between 800 South and 900 South, close to Liberty Park, which also came before us. That we went out, we knocked on doors, and whoever answered, we talked to them. Then we went back and knocked on some more doors. But people just don't stay at home waiting for us to show up to knock on their doors.
Or answer
Right,
doors.
right,
It's a
so
little weird when-
we don't make phone calls to people, we don't cold call people, we just go out, we kind of stand there and hope to talk to people about what's going on, to get public input from our neighbors and residents, because we are your neighbors. And we're doing our best to sort of represent and get as much information as we can to give the planning commission, is the first step, an idea of what we're hearing. Now, sometimes we have enough information to recommend something. We have a clear-cut perspective. This is very clear within the given ordinances, right? we believe this is the best path, right? But we work within very strict parameters of law and zoning law in particular. Okay, so we sometimes will give a proposal, but often we will say, we heard from this many people and these were their major concerns. And we heard this over and over and over, which in this case, we clearly heard the same thing from several different adjacent residences. That we will clearly communicate that, and you can look at our letters that we write are a matter of public record. So you can go back and look at anything we've ever written and with the planning commission or the community council.
So an answer to my question is, you send a letter to the planning commission with
It's
your
a-
recommendations if you choose to.
Mhm.
Now, is this letter from you or do you vote on what is in the letter?
We have a planning or a land use committee that we meet every month and we all discuss and come to terms. So we meet together to decide what we believe in.
And who composes the letter?
It depends on who is in charge of the project.
So I'm just curious to understand the mechanics here.
Yeah, well, you're welcome to join us because
Oh,
we're a
no,
public.
thank you.
No, you're welcome to come and work with
But
us.
I am curious, what's your background, may I ask?
I'm a behavioral economist,
Okay.
so I'm also a mother. I don't know
What does a
what's your
behavioral
background?
economist do? And I don't mean to be
Yeah.
argumentative, but I'm just curious. I'm kind of a simple guy.
I mostly work on numbers,
Oh,
right?
okay.
Like I do game theory modeling, but everyone in our room and our representative has lots of other.
So you work out of your home doing this or?
So we're hearing it, she's really.
So I'm sorry, but I know that we could talk about this some other time, but I mean, I'm happy to come and hang out with you and meet you. Do you want to meet me and know me?
No.
Okay, so I would love to get to know you. Anyone else have somebody on track that they would like to talk about giving their information to the?
Is there someone behind you?
Or, okay. Next.
I don't know if I'm next, but I'll take the opportunity.
Jump in.
Craig Bushman, I live on 8th and Logan Avenue. I walk to Emerson every day with my daughter. She's a student there. I just want to say, I think I strongly support this idea. A neighborhood bar is what we would call a third space. It's not your home. It's not your work. It's not your office. It's a place, an opportunity to meet people in your neighborhood of different ages. Whether you're an older person, a younger person, and get to know your community and just have that sense of neighborhood. And just as a really quick anecdote, I was down in Helper, Utah, 2 weeks ago. Went to the Regis Bar. It's been around for 70 years. 70 years. 30 years ago, it was sold to the bartender because the previous owner's like, this is something the community needs. We need a place to be there. And while we were there, we met retired coal miners. We met a young man who moved to Helper from Golden, Colorado during COVID because they had fast internet and the housing was cheap. And they're all hanging out together and they care for each other because they know each other. And it creates a central place where it doesn't matter what your politics are, your religion, your background, we can meet and come together as a community. So that's why I support this idea. I think it would be great.
Great, thank you. All right, we're gonna have to speed it up a little bit because we're gonna go run long. So are you next?
Yeah, I'd just like to add along with, some involvement in that neighborhood. There are 3 thriving businesses across the street that we have participation in, and it's not good for that to throw a neighborhood bar where you have people stumbling around and smoking. That's not the intent. I don't know how many of you guys have grown up in Sugar House in Salt Lake, but my favorite neighborhoods are 9th and 9th, 15th and 15th. The monstrosity on 21st South, I used to love that area, but now there's just high-rise apartments, no parking. And either way, 9th and 9th and 21st South, they're gonna work their way into the neighborhood. And I think to Cody's point, all he's trying to do is create space for people to come together. And again, make the best use of the neighborhood and we're not trying to step on anybody's feet.
There's lots of parking there.
So, can you just be a little more specific about the businesses across the street?
The businesses we have, but yeah, I mean, we've got the coffee shop on that same street, a real estate office and business. And then just a bunch of residential properties as well, so just a demographic of people, we're trying to create a sense of community on the street.
Great, thank you. Who's next? Go ahead.
Hi, I own the house across the street from Mark.
Down one.
Okay.
Down one.
Kitty corner.
Yeah,
Yes.
Next to yeah.
okay, it's nice to meet you,
Nice to meet you. My name's Shelley.
Cody.
Nice to meet you.
Can you just tell us your address?
1137 Kensington Avenue.
Great, thank you.
And what hours are you planning to be open?
Right now, we are proposing noon to 10 or noon to midnight,
Are you?
but that is not set in stone. And we are open to feedback
So midnight. Currently.
currently.
Okay, are you willing to accept as a condition of your conditional use permit certain hours such as midnight to 10?
I think that's something I will definitely take into consideration for sure. And
Especially maybe weekends.
for weeknights, I think that's great. And I mean, again, I'm a family man. I've got 2 kids. I understand everybody's concerns. And I have already had that thought, you know, the people who hang out till midnight. A weeknight, maybe you're not the people that hang out till midnight on a weekend. So there's probably a compromise somewhere within. And again, that's why I'm here in person to get feedback to try and modify and create a business plan that works for everybody if this does go through. So.
And when are your land use meetings?
We have land use meetings on the second Thursday, or is it Friday?
Second Thursday.
Thursday of every
At what time and where?
Here.
Same time, same place.
Same bat time, same
Yes,
bat channel.
exactly.
So are you
Sorry, all right.
interested in becoming a board member?
Possibly.
Okay.
But I'm allowed to come even not without being a board member, correct? Because it's an open meeting.
Our land use meetings are committee meetings. They are not open meetings, but our public meetings are open to everyone.
Okay. What I'm concerned about parking, because the city took parking
Right.
away with the bump outs.
For sure. They took some of my parking, actually, I think.
Yeah. And so parking is gonna be a
Right.
huge concern.
And I'll keep going back to the vision and, you know, use of this space is really for the neighborhood. I want to promote using bus, using ride share, Uber, Lyft. I don't think anybody should really drive to an alcohol establishment if it's not a restaurant. And so I want to try and promote that as much as possible. And yeah, the space does not have a lot of parking. That's how the space was parceled originally, so my hands are tied with that. But trying to promote not driving to the business is something we've got in our business plan to really push. So,
And you're going after a bar license, correct? Not a tavern license.
well, again, I'm not trying to push for full liquor bar at this time. I mean, I know that's part of this process, but really being more beer and wine tap room experience is what we're trying to achieve.
Well,
So-
a tap room is not a defined term under Utah law. It's either a tavern or a bar
Yeah, in that regard, it would be under the bar.
under the bar
Mhm.
license.
Right, and the same way in my understanding, you know, achieving a beer and wine license similar to like a restaurant is the path I'm trying to head towards. I'm not trying to put in and, you know, obtain a liquor license for a full blown bar in this location.
Why have you chosen not to be a restaurant?
Just at this time, the space just isn't quite big enough. And to bring in all the commercial equipment to create that just would eat up so much of the usable experience inside the building that at this time, it just doesn't quite make sense for me. So,
Okay.
yeah, thank you.
And you're next.
So I actually live at 1137 Kensington. And so I'm renting, this is my mother, so I rent from her.
Nice to meet you.
And I know that you met with my husband, and I definitely appreciate
He
that.
was wonderful. Yeah,
Yeah.
super helpful.
So, like you said, parking, and for me, we cannot have family members over or friends because we do not have the parking for it. And so, and I know that you want to promote that, and I think that's awesome.
Mhm,
But I guess my question is, I like to have a plan B, plan C.
Sure.
What, do you have plans? Like if parking becomes a real issue, do you have a plan B, plan C for that?
At this time, I do not have a clear plan. And again, I may or may not be the operator of my building.
Mhm.
And so part of my process is if I am not the operator and I bring in maybe somebody who's already done a business like this in the neighborhood that has a good reputation, to have them come in with how they've achieved these things in neighborhoods that are similar. So it is something that's high on my priority because I know parking is one of the biggest concerns here.
Yeah.
So
And it always is. It
Yeah,
doesn't matter.
it
what
always
it
is. And I've, every development project I've worked on, whether it's building townhouses or apartments, parking always drives, the final
There's
decisions.
going to be parking behind the Kensington building after hours, which is adjacent to where I live,
Right.
and will not appreciate that either.
So at this time,
Smoking in that parking lot on their way back and forth to your line.
Okay, we're gonna have to reel in the comments a little bit. I think we've given
Sorry.
everybody a lot of time to speak. And the reason why we've gone to such lengths, I mean, generally, we would not just open the floor to communication like this. But essentially, this gentleman owns many homes and real estate in our neighborhood. So he is our neighbor and we are all neighbors. And this is what I'm going to continue to stress, that we're used to Salt Lake being a certain way, but it is changing fast. So we have to figure out. We thank you, Cody, for coming. We thank you, Riley, for coming. We're going to take a couple online comments, but negotiating these things is going to be really important to East Liberty Park community members across the board moving forward, because we're going to see a lot more of this. This is just the beginning. So again, we appreciate everyone's input. And again, I'm always available for comment or a conversation, coffee or tea, anytime. Moving on to online, I know that we have, I don't know how to say her name, so please somebody. Frinya online. Frinya has sent in some very great comments that have guided a lot of our questions as I'm walking around talking to people. So can you unmute and go ahead and ask your questions?
Yes, not a question. I just want to make a statement, I guess is what it is. I'm aware of all of Mr. Cunningham's properties. I've been following this, for a year since the property sold, and I don't see any problem with any of his other properties and plans. And, there's two just down the street on Bryan, and I'm aware of the others also. What concerns me is I know that this meets code. It could pass on code and everything else, but it really is an issue of quality of life. It is the parking. It's a zoo already with the parking. It already has, and the bulb outs reduce them. The bulb out in front of my house and Richard's across the street from me are larger than any of the other bulb outs. You can still do two cars on most of them. You cannot on ours, but there is no parking, and the 11th East corridor is reducing parking to every other side of the street. People do drive. You can encourage all you want, but people do drive. They're going to park in Pinnacle, or they're going to park behind the bar. And also the hours of operation. There are lots and lots of businesses on 11th East. They close by 7 o'clock. They're not open 7 days a week, let alone until midnight. So in the evening by 7 o'clock, it is a lovely, quiet place to live. And this establishment, I think, is seriously going to disrupt that. And that is what my concern is. I have nothing against bars. I have nothing against people who drink. It is simply an issue of the quality of life will greatly change. And that building could house many different kinds of businesses that wouldn't be open 7 days a week until midnight.
Okay, thank you so much for your comments. And like I said, I tried to express this through email that your comments were very thoughtful and well written, and we were able to use those when we speak. So we will spread both your emails and your public comment tonight. Is there anyone else on the Zoom who would like to speak to this issue before we move on? All right,
I just have one clarifying question.
Yes.
Bradley, are we clear about the smoking thing and whether or not you could get a conditional permit that did not allow us to have a designated smoking area? Because as I hear Cody say, that there's a lot of concern with the neighbors. I totally get it. We have a swamp cooler. You're not that interested in having smoking. So Riley, do you know the answer to that, or could you get back to us?
Well, it is actually required by city
It
code
is.
to have
So
a
there's
smoking
nothing
area.
around it.
Yeah,
So that-
sorry.
Yeah. And I think to this gentleman's point, is there space in this area where it's far enough from a sidewalk and far enough from the building where there actually can be?
We do have on the updated site plan, a space that meets the requirements for the
Off the
city.
roof and a plastic bubble with a machine that absorbs all the tobacco.
That would be awesome. Snow globe. If it's possible, I would do it.
Just like the city designates the space, doesn't mean that-
Pardon me, but we're gonna reel in this conversation because we have to have a civil dialogue here and everybody has had an opportunity to speak. So I am putting my foot down now. Thank you for your comments. We really appreciate it. And I'm going to let you know that the planning commission will schedule a public hearing on this. You're welcome to continue to write to them as often as you would like to, every day if you choose. And we invite you to speak at that public hearing, and we will also be there as well. So, you appreciate you all for coming, and we really hope that you join us for more of this on other topics moving forward. Cody, thank you.
Yeah.
Great. Thank you
Thanks
for
for having
coming
me,
and talking and, listening.
sure.
And thank you.
You're welcome. I have cards right here. If anyone wants to take any, if you send any comments to me, I will pass them on to the planning commission.
Great. Okay, so now for the really exciting moment everybody's been waiting for. If anybody is interested in leaving, we're going to get to our grammar report or grammar request for the Salt Lake City School District and the potential closure of schools.
That's why I'm here. Yeah,
Yay. Okay.
I live in the avenue so far, so never. A block of 2100 south, so. And it's St. Paul, like I have like. I don't really fit in on that.
Okay, we're gonna have to kind of cross quickly forward, so. Okay, you guys, we're gonna have to get you to meet outside, or you've got to keep the moving. So thank you.
Just meeting. That's ridiculous that there would have to be. Yeah.
Last I was 15th at the Middle East.
Yeah, take care.
Oh, no.
It's weird. It's a little weird because I'm not part of the neighborhood, but I know, but I do have joint concerns on this next issue.
I'm gonna have to ask everybody to be quiet because we do have a Zoom meeting happening at the same time, so. Thanks again for readjusting the room and for everybody online for being patient with us as we move forward. The next on the agenda for the evening is officially ELPCO business. So we are not introducing any new business here. We are just following up on old business. So if you're new to the room and you have questions, we're going to wait until we get through the presentation, which we're going to give the room to David Jones, who has been working on the Salt Lake School District Grammar Request.
Thank you. This is an update on the school district's school closure and boundary adjustment study. A little background, in August, the school board agreed with the Boundary Options Committee recommendation to further study 7 schools in the school district. At that time, in our August meeting, we had an individual come and talk to us about the closure of Emerson School, and that caught our interest. And we realized that within the East Liberty Park boundaries, we have not only Emerson, but students that go to Hawthorne, students that go to Lincoln, students go to Binion, students go to Uinta. I don't think I missed anything. So we have a number of residents in the area that have interest in all those. Three of those schools, Binion, Emerson, Hawthorne, are on the list. One of the stated reasons that the school district is looking at school closures and boundary adjustments is because from 2014 to 2022, they've lost enrollment has been down 28%. Interestingly, 28% of the schools are 7, and they're looking at closing 7 schools. This kind of leads, anyway, they're looking at closing 7 schools. 4 of those schools are Wasatch, Binion, Emerson, and Hawthorne, which are right in the middle of the city. I've spoke at a couple of their public meetings that they've had. And both times when I've mentioned that it would be very detrimental to the city to close elementary schools from 4th Avenue and the avenues to 21st South and Sugar House and between 13th East and 5th East, it would just be a desert. And both times, everyone agreed. And so hopefully that will be passed on to the State Board of Education or the Salt Lake Board of Education. The other thing that we did was we felt like the information that they provided on their website, which included a what they called a boundary option committee spreadsheet, had a lot of information, but there was really no explanation of some of that information and data. There was no information regarding how they came up with the rankings that they came up with. And I think all the schools were concerned that why are we ranked this way when we can see various discrepancies and with the data from other schools. So we did a grandma request and we asked for all of the data, all the records that the committee used or produced in making their decision and making a recommendation to the committee. We also asked for email communications between the committee members and the chairman and the Board of Education members. We received a response with regards to the data and records. And basically they said, here it is. We have a published link that you can look at all that. We haven't even commented. Well, we have commented on the data, but the link itself is the data that they gave us. And then then they said, here's everything that you've requested, plus everything on their website. With regards to the emails, they initially said that they wouldn't produce them because it was unreasonably burdensome on them. We appealed that, and just earlier this week, they granted our appeal. So that was amazing.
Really?
So that's good news. The good news is that there's 9,000 plus emails. It's going to take them 50 some odd hours at $45 an hour to produce, and they wouldn't be able to get them to us all until December. So one of the things that we as the board need to discuss is whether or not we want to pay the fee to get these. And I've already asked their grandma officer to reconsider that because East Liberty Park Community Organization has told them that the only reason we're doing this is to benefit the public, and the school district has the ability, they don't have the obligation, but they have the ability to produce these records at no cost to us. And so hopefully we won't have to spend any money to get the records. The records I'm talking about are the emails, the other records they've provided to us that we've requested.
Does that equate to $5,000 or so?
It's a couple thousand.
Couple thousand.
Yeah.
2,000.
So aside from the money, which we will have to talk about at the end, but the first steps we have taken is we immediately put it into our newsletter for anybody who's assigned to our newsletter. We spread it on our Facebook page for anybody who wanted to have the link from the public can go right to all the documents we've already obtained. And I sent it to all of the other community councils in town as well linking to the Salt Lake City, our council member and the mayor. So we're in the process of spreading these links as we committed to every single concerned parent across the city. And we have had some feedback from the West Side community, particularly Glendale and Councilman Bowie, in gratitude and also sharing that information more with their constituents. So we wanted to make very clear that this was not an East Side versus West Side. We're all in this together, and we're all looking for strategies to assist the school board in making better decisions, including something that David brought up today. Can you?
Yeah, one of the things that was mentioned earlier this week when they had a public meeting was that they've talked about how, oh my gosh, we have 28%, we have fewer students. We got 3,000 some odd fewer students in the past years. We've kept all of our 27 schools open. We need to do some action. And the action the only action they're taking is thinking about closing schools. And I told them that what they really need to do is figure out how to keep the students that actually live in Salt Lake City to go to public schools as opposed to go someplace else, and how to make the Salt Lake City School District so attractive that parents with children of elementary school age want to send their schools here. And I don't think that's a new idea to them. I think that actually was one of their board members, I think, kind of asked about that.
Christy Sweat talks about this all the time.
Pardon?
Christy Sweat talks about this all the time.
Okay, maybe is she a board member?
She's been a board member.
Okay, so and during this public discussion, I remember the guy said, well, we really don't want to do marketing. And I said, you have got to do marketing. I mean, this is,
Additionally, we can do marketing. Councils can do
and
that.
other people at the meeting said, look, if you're going to close 7 schools now and think about what else to close in 3 years, eventually you're not going to have a school district, because people aren't going to want to move into, this is a 4 square mile area they're thinking about closing. And, it's attractive to have neighborhood schools. So,
Okay.
but I understand we have people from other schools.
Yes, David has been very passionate about this, and we have sort of given him some leverage or leeway. We of ELPCO, the board has said, do what you need to do, and the passion shows. So, David, we thank you very much. I don't mean to cut you off.
Bottom of my heart.
Thank you.
You're a great speaker.
We have
Brian.
heard from Emerson in detail. They were incredible. We have a recorded version of them speaking from their passionate state back in August. So now we were happy to invite some parents from Hawthorne to give us an update on what they're working on. I know that there is a recent article in the Tribune, which we posted on our Facebook page today. And I didn't know we had Benyon and Wasatch, but welcome. Thank you for coming. Thank you for joining.
Thanks for accepting us.
Yeah, so I'm
For
not
me.
sure- I'm not sure how you want to go at this. Jeff just thought that we should give you the floor
I mean,
and
I
tell us what you're
think
working on
from
and what's
a-
important.
I think one of the things that we.
Do you want
I
to
don't
introduce
actually-
yourself?
I'm Jenny. I'm
Okay.
actually the person quoted in the newspaper. So, and I'm a Hawthorne parent. I actually live just south of ELPCO. So I live right on Ramona and 1100 East, basically. So I'm really close to this neighborhood. Actually, as Jeff knows, my daughter is best friends with Jeff's daughter. That's how I know Jeff.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so I mean, I live closer to Emerson, right? Even though my kids go to Hawthorne. And so I think that from one of the things is just making sure, and I'm glad, and Jeff has told us this thing, and so thank you for being not advocating for one school in your precinct or your area of your community, because I think that Emerson's been so loud from our standpoint that sometimes we, as Hawthorne, kind of felt like people forgot about us. So I have always appreciated that Jeff said we are trying to represent the community. And I think from the ELPCO standpoint, losing a school I kind of feel like I'm almost in your neighborhood, like losing a school that serves is devastating for the amount of children that we see in this if Liberty Wells and part of Sugar House neighborhoods. And I think that I'm glad to hear that you're advocating for that. And I know that Brenda lives on the other side of 700 East, so she lives in Liberty Wells. And so I think that that's the big piece of, we're appreciative of your efforts on this. I think one of the things that the district doesn't have data-wise is future population ideas. And so one of the things that I think could be helpful from the neighborhood standpoint is if you know neighbors who have young kids that want to go to a neighborhood school, for them to speak up. Because I'm not actually 100% certain that they're going to keep both Emerson and Hawthorne open. Some days I think they will, that they'll keep one of them, and other days I'm like, they're gonna shut both of them down, right? And so I think that that's the piece from a community organization where your voice can be helpful for us, is just speaking up, like, we have young kids. We want a neighborhood school, or if you don't have young kids, we want a neighborhood school.
So we've attempted to do this,
Yeah.
and I love what you're saying.
Yeah.
And, you know, I have talked to mostly Emerson parents on this, and I know David has too. We have so few people contacting us. Even, so we did invite the Keep Emerson Open group to run our kids activity area in Liberty Park during our 9th and 9th Street Festival, just so they could have direct connection to a population. But we are amazed how many people do not ever contact their community council. So I think that we would appreciate your help, speaking to your point, getting folks to tell us what they think. I mean, this is difficult a little bit tonight, but this difficult stuff where people come into a room and make everyone uncomfortable is exactly what we're going for. It's how we serve the constituents. So if you guys could like spread the word to your Hawthorne parents through your I'm assuming you are the SEC president? Yeah, or chair,
Yeah.
yes. If you could somehow let us know, we have Bill on the line. Bill, are you still there? Bill is the chair of the Liberty Wells Community Council. I can't tell if he is actually with us. Bill, yeah, well, anyway, so, you know, two of my incredible colleagues, Bill Davis of Liberty Wells and Grant Miller is his sidekick, who is also launching a campaign for House Representative. These are two individuals that would love to hear more, but we have so much on our plate. If people don't contact us, it's really hard for us to sit there waiting for public input. So could we devise a plan with even with your groups? We would love to hear from anyone. And we know from experience so far that the people on the west side with the west side schools also want to hear from all of you, and we want to hear from them. So I would be open in this, you know, community council to hearing as much as we could from everybody, regardless of where you live. Is that possible for you guys to?
I mean, I don't think anyone's fighting against each other.
Oh, no, we absolutely, I mean, here,
I just mean
can I
solicit.
speak as just being the complete outsider coming in from, I crossed some major thoroughfares to get here. I did it safely, but it took a minute. So I come from Wasatch, and we are outsiders. We moved here from Nebraska 5 years ago. And all I wanted to do was find the most liberal, safe neighborhood for my kids and find something I could afford. Because I knew that I was coming in, even if I was conservative, I wasn't Utah. And so I had to figure out like where I could go. And so I found this really great community in the Avenues. The only reason we bought the house and spent that kind of money is because school was 3 blocks away, you know? And then I get to this school, and it's this amazing school that has all of these amazing bells and whistles doesn't have the best building, I'll give you that. And, you know, I would love to discuss further on the maintenance budgets on all of these schools, because what they've done to our community in just neglect is absolutely another issue that I've been awoken to. I mean, we've been begging for an HVAC system for decades. And in that time, we haven't gotten it, but Open Classroom, which was the former Lowell site down the block, just got a $30,000 new roof. I mean, it's just not adding up. Why I understand that schools are different here in Utah with choice and all of that. But as a public school and a public entity with such, all you have to do is look up and see the wealth and poverty divide. You have a dying lake to, Deer Valley. It's like, it's not hard to see what the money is doing and where we're spending it. But then when you start looking at the school budgets and, all of a sudden I get, butthurt. My school is closing. And so I become an emotional parent. But at the same time, I have another daughter who just went to Bryant. And Bryant is this amazing school, but it has that's our neighborhood school. It is not Wasatch. I can promise you guys that. But it is an amazing school. My kids are going camping. She's going on camping trips. She has, many of well-educated teachers, just an amazing environment. But then you look at the budget, they get 17,000, Clayton has 176. No wonder why they want to bus and, have a special ride to Clayton. The bells and the things that we're doing in our community, and I think when it comes to a community council and a community and what we've tried to express at the Greater Avenues Community Council, is that this is our community. These are our neighborhoods. And when they speak of affordability, where is affordability going to be in Salt Lake? Of course it's going to be, we're the growth. The new Utah study says it. We're it. The West Side's it. And what do you have without schools? And so I guess we're angry in one way because the district has set a policy that pit us against each other. It's like Wasatch against Benyon. Who's going to survive? Hawthorne and Emerson. Who's going to survive? And that's not fair and it's not right. And we have a chance with this new superintendent, it feels, to have a partnership somehow. And we need neighborhoods to help us in that process because that you guys have such a powerful voice in keeping schools as part of our community economic and development. I mean, when kids just become numbers, they're lost.
Okay, so we value your emotion.
I'm sorry.
No, we value your emotion. This is a very hot topic. I mean, I spoke to Jeff for an hour on the phone. Amy and I, our kids, and Marshall, our kids all went to Emerson. So you have my tears, I feel for you. I feel for every parent who's very concerned about their next year and the next years. So we at ELPCO value numbers. We're really focusing on data driven and putting the evidence back in evidence-based decisions. So we're asking you to keep that power, keep that, that going. And, the reason why we brought the Hawthorne folks in is because we were stunned by their ability to find holes and to talk about transparency using data. That's going to be our power. That's our power as a community council. So before I forget, I want to invite you all to November 1st. The Central City Community Council has the school board attending their community council meeting. So they asked me to invite all of us there.
The whole school board?
The whole school board? Is whatever who will ever show up. Okay, so
They weren't clear on
Right.
who from the school board,
Right.
but members of the school board. they
Yes.
said.
Right.
So
So
Well, they-
Central City is just immediately north of ELPCO, right, Christina?
yeah, so that note, so we're D5, they're D4, and D4 is still, wait, where's Nate at now? Is Nate still D4?
No, Nate's, yeah.
Well, he represents our
That's
field.
parking lot, right?
Yes, our future parking lot.
Where do they meet?
So they are going to meet at the library, that's where they usually, but just in case they need a bigger room or something, they're negotiating the place. So keep this, I didn't want to.
When is that?
That is November 1st, Central City Community Council. So you can visit their Facebook page and get more information, but we will also be publicizing that. And for anybody else who listens to this recording, we really do feel like we're happy that you're all here so that you can go back to your parents and your teachers and your classrooms and whoever your stakeholders are and have them reach out to their community councils. and start a conversation similar to what David has. We have data, we're starting to learn about data. I want to express creativity and advocating for alternative paths, so.
Two things. One, we do have data since they responded to our question, but what's striking about it is the lack of data that they gave us. And there's a couple things that were probably just mistakes on their part. And I think we mentioned it in our letter, but the members of the Boundary Options Committee have no meeting minutes. They have no notes of their meeting.
They talked about it last night.
They never recorded notes. There are no notes. You cannot ask for them.
That's not a good look.
And that wasn't, well, that's just not their policy.
Okay, so I'm sorry, but we're gonna have to keep time in mind.
There are no minutes.
And the second thing I'd like to hear from Benny.
So my name's Carrie, and my daughters both went to Benyon for 5 and 4 years, and they're now at Bryant and Highland. I was the SCC chair when they tried to close Benyon, basically behind closed doors 4 years ago. I kind of stayed out of this because we had a policy and they were gonna follow a policy. And then I read your newsletter, that there are no minutes. And I'm just appalled. So I asked the question last night, are there really no minutes? And their answer is yes, which is crap. Every meeting holds minutes of some kind.
We record it.
Right. And they said, well, we have to be able to speak freely. And I said, I'm not asking for a transcript. I'm not asking for a transcript. I'm asking for minutes and how this decision was made. I invited the media here tonight. That's who I was talking to out there. Because your newsletter made that much of a difference. Like, I went through so much, I was not gonna get involved in this again.
I'm so glad you're back.
And I guess, like, we can talk to our parents, except my school, those parents, they will not come here. And they don't have a voice. And the word equity was not in this process starting in spring, and it's still not. And I guess your voice is the loudest and most organized, thanks to your hard work. And I guess I just I can't express how thankful I am for all of your work and appreciative. And whatever we can do, we'll do, but I think our focus needs to just be transparency.
Try to what?
Transparency. Where is the transparency? What is the rubric for the score that you gave Benyon?
And that's what started it all off. That's the rubric,
They can't give it, they can't answer it. And unfortunately, the superintendent after the meeting said, we don't keep minutes on all sorts of meetings throughout the district, and talked to me like I was not the educated person and professional that I am. Like I was an idiot. So I don't know that we have the superintendents, but
okay.
Fair.
I just want to be very clear that, we're happy to listen to your input. And we can't really make judgments about what we have going on in this context, because this is a community council meeting, and all opinions are valued. I just want to make sure that you understand that we are not evaluating the evidence. We are making it transparent for everyone else who is a stakeholder.
Fantastic.
Right, so just want to clarify that for everybody who sees the recording, moving on. So I would like
Once
to.
we get the
continue
emails,
this.
we'll
Yeah, we will
publish those
continue
too.
this. Yeah.
Can I just say one?
Well, I want to hear from, the school boards said that we're running this process through the SEC committees at each school, and that's why we invited Britta here from Hawthorne, and I'd love to hear what Britta prepared to just share with us tonight.
Fantastic.
Thanks so much. So Britta Manzo. Yes, I'm the SEC chair, and I've had a child at Hawthorne for 12 years. This is my oldest daughter, who is actually at Highland now, and I have a young one in 5th grade. So first off, I would like to say thank you so much for doing the grandma request. I've sent several emails asking for the similar information and have received no response. So very appreciate getting that through. So first off, I'd also say that I would say thank you to the district for Brian Conley for at least being willing to take the battery that he has taken. So I'll give him that. It's been a really rough crowd, and for somebody to sit up there for hours, I'll give him credit for that. And then I would also start with saying, I agree that some schools might have to close.
Yes.
There's no doubt, looking at the data that you acquired, I'm sure that there will be schools that have to close. So the 3 points that I would like to bring up really is around transparency. So I think we've touched on that quite a bit. You know, I am an accountant as a professional, and so I certainly come at this from a numbers game as well. And so really, the problem that I have with transparency is that really the data they've provided really is only public data. So this is stuff that you and I could have come up with on our own. We didn't need anybody to provide it to us. So the information that we really were looking for are the things that you are gathered through your grammar request. And the lack of financial data provided was appalling. So, you know, we know that the legislative audit happened in December, and then they, you know, voted in February to study. The legislative audit, you know, circled around $4 million of savings that were needed. When pressed about finances, this was not part of that. But we could be running more efficiently. Okay, well, what does efficiently look like? How much are you trying to save? What are those cost savings? Well, we're not looking at that. You know, so there's kind of a two-prong to that, right? So you're not looking at it, that's concerning. If you are not looking at what the financial implications of closing schools are and how you would redeploy those dollars, that's really concerning if you're not looking at it. If you're telling us that you're not looking at it and you are, then you're lying. So either way, I think that's really concerning. So I'm really excited to take a dive into the financial data that they've provided. And then there's no plan to review. So they've asked for public comment, but there has been no plan to actually comment on other than close the school, don't close the school. That's it. Close the school, don't close the school. Where are the kids gonna go? What does that look like? What does our community look like? We don't have anything to really comment on. So they've spent a lot of time, again, Brian, spent a lot of time listening to comments. But frankly, I think it's completely disingenuous because they did not provide any data to actually be able to comment on. And so, so really that's my kind of second point is the comment period. You know, anytime, you know, I work in healthcare, so like, you know, Medicare puts out a rule, you have to have comment period. And then if you change part of that, you actually have to have another comment period. So, at the meeting last night, you know, the district was pressed to come to a commitment of when they were going to actually release something to review that looked like a resemblance of a plan that would include kind of boundary changes. And they finally agreed to have that available before the public hearing, I think on December 5th.
But they might move the meeting on December 5th if it's not ready yet.
Right.
So there's still not a firm date.
But they didn't even say like how many days in advance of that meeting. So it could be that morning, it could be at the meeting. So really, again, you're giving we're providing this comment, but there's so much time, but we're not going to give you again any additional information until right before. So I would again ask for if there's advocacy out there to really get that planted well in advance of whatever public comment meeting they're planning to hold. And then the last part is exactly what you talked about. So the first thing I did when I actually heard the list is I printed out the map and highlighted it. And I was like, what? What? That's insane. You actually literally divided our city. So as though we were not east-west already. Well, now we are far east and far west.
And except for far east.
Right. Far east. So
we're a little bit.
To me, this was like, there's no way this wasn't planned like that. So again, I would like to understand what the planning is around the location. clearly it was a chosen path right down the middle. And so the question for me is why the locations? And, I've been thinking a lot about, even your previous, proposal. What's gonna be the proposal that goes in for Hawthorne? What would they put on that big piece of land right on the corner of 7th? Right? Because that is what we're talking about. We're talking about what will they do afterwards? So it was brought up, oh, well, the 2 that we closed before we haven't sold, and the city would have the first right, and then maybe, we would do something afterwards. And the district's gonna keep them. The district might keep 2, they're not gonna keep 9, right? And if they are, that's a complete waste of money. So what are they gonna do with these these facilities? Are they gonna scrape them? Are they gonna put high density housing? So not only are we going to be losing a gem with our community of places where our kids can walk to school, that still walk to the school, even though they're in high school, because they find it to be like so welcoming and their place that they grew up. But then what's gonna be there afterwards? So I would just say that really what we need is more of a plan and an opportunity to actually comment on those things that matter.
And some of the data they don't have is they don't have the data to say why they have the right size school number. They cannot counteract with the fact that their student teacher ratio is 16.1 in the district, or 16.7. The average student to teacher ratio, they reported at the last board meeting, is 16.7 to 1. The right size schools number is 25 to 1 for K through 3, and 1 to 28, 4 through 6. So they are potentially advocating drastically increasing student teacher ratios in all of our schools with no evidence or data behind that to tell us that that's actually a good thing. And they also, when you press them on that, say, well, no, that won't happen. But if you put 550 school kids in a school that only holds 550 or 600, you can't get back to that average 16.7 to 1 student that parents are enjoying.
Yeah.
So that's a data point that they have refused to really discuss. And it's also a data point that they don't have the evidence to back them of why they picked that number. Does that make sense? And that's a piece that I think is something they need to explain, and they're not explaining it. Does that make sense?
And really the number of students in the schools, they've said 550 over and over. There's not really anybody at 550 like that. There's nobody there. They're not close. So, here are the numbers, like, there's like 5 or 6 that are even above, 400. So we don't actually have any experience of what it looks like to run a school with 550 students.
Well, that's interesting.
So why that is now considered success when really we have success in our district, and many of those schools that have had success are the ones they're proposing to close.
Great, thank you.
I would suggest that all the comments you made need to be put in writing and given to them. If you haven't done it already. Okay? That's what I told you.
They're also.
And I don't know if that's even gonna be worth
I
the,
got
paper it's
told
written
they were
on.
sick of my data-driven questions and
Okay, good.
I demanded.
it's all helpful. I have an expert on right size schools, as they call it. And you don't need to have 400 to 550 kids to be a right size school and to make it work. It's
Jeff,
their
did you
own
have
budget.
comment?
Yeah, no, I want to thank everybody for being here. As you know, I'm very passionate about this issue. I have 1 daughter at Hawthorne and 1 daughter at Emerson, and I live in the Emerson boundaries. There's a lot of special school communities within the district. And having said that, I'm also a taxpayer for Salt Lake. Like we said, that there's schools, they do need to adjust the way that they're allocating dollars in schools. What my big problem is with the process. I want transparent. So obviously a key word here in everything that we're talking about. I want a transparent process. I want one that's data driven, and I want one that's fully fledged out and something to actually comment on, and that gives me an idea, pushing us off this cliff into an unknown and compartmentalizing this process and without anything behind which schools they're gonna choose to close and then figuring out the next step does not make any sense. That's a terrible process. And the process needs to be overhauled if we're gonna close schools and changed so that it's a full-fledged plan and thought out from beginning to end and where downstream paths for where the junior high kids end up, where the magnet programs are, connecting the magnet programs and how they're going to make and send people to participate in the Salt Lake School District. All of this, choosing which schools they close before any of that planning and thought happens is just foolish. And it's cart before the horse. And without that downstream planning, choosing which schools to close, it doesn't make sense. So the biggest thing that I'm advocating for. If Hawthorne needs to close, where Emerson needs to close, or Wasatch needs to close, and that's what the data supports. It sucks, but let's do it.
Yeah.
But I want to understand what the plan is and why and where that data came from and be able to comment and have an intelligent conversation with the district about it.
One of the things you can do as a community organization is the superintendent did tell one of our parents last night that the board will get the plan before everybody else. And it's the board who gets to decide when they release it to the public. So she said that if you want to get it the same day, the board gets it as a community, that people need to start emailing the board reps and saying, we want no lag. Does that make sense? That we want this plan that you're presenting as soon as you see it. So we have time to digest it. So we can ask intelligent questions and make intelligent comments when we do have that comment period. So that's the thing, the plans that they're developing are getting submitted to Dr. Grant. Dr. Grant is going to decide if she's submitting more than one plan or just a plan to the board. And the board gets to decide if they will release it immediately to the public or if they will hold on to it for a bit. And so that's a piece where not just parents communicating that they want to see the plan before, but that the community at large saying they want to see the plan before is actually really helpful because this is a community issue. It's not just elementary school parents.
Why do they not have a plan of no boundaries? If they've suggested this, how do they not have just one plan to show us what if they close all these 7 schools? Because that's what they're threatening us with. They're closing 7 schools. How do we not have that data of what happens if they close all 7? I mean, I'm not asking you anymore to even tell me if my school is closing. Just tell me what happens when all 7 do. You suggested this.
So this is
Doesn't
a
sound like they know.
This is a conversation, that has been really strongly being advocated for by the West Side Coalition right now. Because they are also not just advocating for West Side schools, they are strongly being data and evidence-based. So everybody is having the same conversations. So again, what I'm advocating for, show up at the East Central Community Council meeting on the 1st, reach out to our counterparts in the West Side Coalition, the Glendale Community Council. Every single one of these people are happy to, we'll send them this video. But if you as parents are driving this, we are community council, right? What we're here to do is to make sure that you are heard. So we're going to give you every bit of information that we have and that we can get. And David is going to give us some clarification of the things that we're seeing. We're not going to read too much into it or we're not going to make statements that we can't back up, So for all of you all here, really appreciate you coming in the essence of time. And for the Tracy Aviary, we're going to have to move on really quick. You can stay for our ELPCO business, but I think this communication is really ongoing. And having you come and speak to our community council is very, very powerful. Because again, we have peers in other communities. So if you have suggestions for what else we can do to help, just let us know.
Thank you.
Great. So we're going to have to do the rest of our ELPCO business very quickly. Thank you for coming.
Okay. And then one coming in this week. Do you help out with the pantry? Would you like to start helping in the pantry? Because I need help there. I'm always on the right. Thank you.
Okay, so for the board members here,
Thank you very much.
yeah, absolutely. I really value.
Well, you're gonna need to reconnect that.
Really appreciate
We
it.
just lost the signal.
We don't, it's someone else's card.
Thank you.
running.
This isn't really necessary for us to do with each other.
I mean,
But, okay, so the question that we have to deal with tonight is that we have a lot of board appointed. Thank you for coming. We have a lot of board appointed positions right now. So we have nobody vying for these board positions because our bylaws suggest that you have to attend 3 meetings prior to being nominated for a position. No one has stood up to want to join us officially since we all welcomed you to the board. So Amy is in a position where she is taking the place of our past 9th and 9th liaison that would be up for election at this time. So you would be a new position. Just you're not taking a part of anybody's position. So your position is 2 years from now. And we will again convene in November to make sure that there is nobody opposed to you serving as our 9th and 9th liaison. So officially welcome to the board. You have 2 years ahead of you. So
It's not a prison.
the other positions at the table are 2 years for Marshall as East Liberty Park, 2 years for Jeanette as secretary, 2 years Alicia for West Emerson, 2 years for Alan. So all in favor of
Alan's at large.
at large, yes. And
I so move. Me?
yeah, and well, you were 2 years.
I'm already running, aren't I? I mean,
No, so
I started like earlier this year.
let me just be clear, okay? So the people who filled positions, right, served out the position and then are up for reelection. So you were one of those people.
Oh,
So basically, everybody at the table is up for reelection. So does anybody, can I have a motion from the floor to welcome you to the board for the next 2 years?
I make a motion that we all be nominated to be on the board.
Okay.
Reelected.
Reelected. Officially elected.
Reelected for 2 years.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, well, I guess I needed a second. Anyone want to give me a second? It's been a long night. Okay, so we were gonna look at the bylaws this evening, but I was asked to help the Ballpark Community Council revise their bylaws, and in doing so, I met with a gentleman named Shane who created the bylaws for the Sugar House Community Council, and we all got together at the county building. And we realized that there had been a change to the ordinance, the Recognized Community Organization Ordinance, and that we feel like it behooves us to postpone making any changes, big changes to our bylaws at this time until we can reckon it with that really important ordinance that establishes us in the first place. So we're going to put that off until the new year. But in the meantime, we have to get kosher with our articles, our new articles that have been reinstated and accepted by our board, which officially create a vice president or vice chair or multiple vice chair roles. And I would like to nominate Jeff to fill the vice president or vice chair position.
I second
All in favor? Okay, so the really important part of this is now we have extra, without changing our bylaws, we actually have rules to slide people into if we have new interested board member that, people in our community who are interested in joining us. That opens up an East Emerson representative position. My position in West of East is still open. And we lost our treasurer, so we have slid Jeanette into performing both secretary and treasurer tasks at this point, but if we could find a new treasurer, that would be fantastic. We feel like the more representation and transparency we can get across our community, the better. And in addition, I would like to propose that we consider looking for or adding at least 2 more at-large positions moving into the new year to help me, especially with social media and outreach and things like this. So we'll talk about this at a different point, but if it's all right with you, I am going to close this meeting.
Do you want me to talk about the affordable housing?
Oh, gosh, yes. Can you quickly hit it?
Yeah, I can do
I'm
it really fast.
So sorry.
You're good. I just want to cover it if we're gonna cover it.
Yeah.
So Jeanette, Christina and I met to discuss the affordable housing incentive proposal that was sent out to the land use committee 2 weeks ago now. And thinking through a response, so we wrote one, which was effectively to the point that we appreciated the struggle inherent in the nature of any affordable housing initiative, where you have to balance the needs of affordable housing, which we need, and also the needs of the community. Density for its own sake doesn't actually help anyone. And so looking at keeping community feel, often there's the use of NIMBYism as sort of a way to disregard community feedback, and the weaponization of it doesn't help anyone. Our community actually really supports affordable housing, but we're supporting affordable housing in the form of duplexes, small townhomes, rather than large apartment blocks, and thinking through ways that the incentive actually requires oversight, and tracking data and making sure that those units are actually affordable. So that the way that it's done makes sense and does the thing it says it's gonna do, but currently has no safeguards or review process. So it asks for those safeguards and those review process. It's 2 paragraphs long. We sent it to the city council.
So the state of the affordable housing incentives that were previously the affordable housing overlay, they are being considered by the council. We haven't, ELPCO hasn't taken a stance on it previously because it is so complicated that it's way above our pay grade. So we wanted to wait to see what other people who were far more informed and knowledgeable in these type of development issues than we are, what they were weighing in on. And they just happened to coincide very well with ELPCO's established ethos as we talk about it in terms of you know, what we feel like we can strongly support and what we need way more information on. So thank you, Alicia, for, you know, really taking the charge on that. And if you guys have questions, we can talk about it afterwards. But being that it's 9:30, I am officially closing this meeting. We are adjourned. Thank you for attending. See you later.
That was a good one. Are we gonna meet in November?
Let me close out the live portions. If that's okay.
No, you're fine. My wife is expecting, like, I need to go to the airport.
Oh,
now.
That's cool.
All right, yeah.
Good to see you as well.
I wish I hadn't closed the meeting.
Oh, wait.
What?
Wait, do we need to open up? the
Well, we
meeting?
talked about funding for the grandma request, and then we talked about. I guess I had a question about, are we going to make a recommendation? Are we going to tell the planning commission what our residents think about the bar?
Okay, so this is not something that we would talk about in a public open meeting. We would take this to our committee and discuss this internally. Because both of these are land use. One is land use and the other is budget. So we can have a conversation. I'm still live on this stuff. We can have a conversation about this. And if we need to do a special live meeting or a special public meeting again, because we feel like we need to be transparent and we want to hold it, then we'll do that. If that works, we can always go live or record our land use committee.
Yeah.
So, okay, now I'm getting off of Facebook. Thank you all for attending the ELPCO's October 2023 community meeting.
We have a plan